This video explains the principles of CRAP, yes, that's right, CRAP, beam, and spear for anybody who's unsure of what they mean or how they can be useful. The acronyms are quirky, but believe it or not, CRAP and beam are widely used to provide students with some ideas of how to find the right kind of sources and how to use them properly. Spear is the one I've added to get you started with analysing how a source works in order to evaluate its claims against its evidence. Taken together, these frameworks give you some basic answers to questions like: is this a reliable source for me to use in my argument? This source is old, but still widely cited. Does that mean I can use it? How can I use this source in my assignment? Do I need to critically analyze all of my sources in my assignment? How do I explain why this source didn't convince me? And what exactly should I be analyzing when evaluating a source? Crab answers the first two, Beam the second two, and Spear the last two. Together, these frameworks encapsulate the basics of what kind of sources you should use, how you can use them, and how to analyze them critically. CRAP stands for currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. Currency encompasses how current the source is in the debate, most obviously in terms of when it was published, but also when it was last updated, such as in the form of a new edition or with a preface, and how often it's been cited in relevant scholarship. Note that older sources can still be current if they're still being widely cited, but you should still draw on more recently published sources to see how these older ones are being used. A source's relevance is determined by the scope of your assignment, so it will shift as your plan evolves. The authority of a source largely comes from the author's credentials, and to a lesser extent, those of the periodical and the publisher. Accuracy is a complex area that covers how the source reaches its claims, in other words, its analysis. Spear will take you further into these complexities. And finally, purpose asks you to think about why the source was published, and is particularly important when dealing with non academic sources. BEAM stands for background, example or exhibit, argument, and method. This is a category system where you assign a source to one or more of these groups. Your background sources are those that provide information that helps you outline the larger context of your claims, whether it is an academic debate or the social, historical, or professional circumstances to which your claims apply. Your example sources provide useful examples that help you explain or illustrate something that is otherwise difficult to understand because it's very abstract or complex. Your argument sources are those whose claims you respond to when making your own. They could be sources whose claims you agree with, disagree with, or build upon. These are your most important sources. Without them, your assignments may become overly descriptive. Finally, your method sources help you justify the method you choose to collect data and analyze it. SPEAR stands for scope, purpose, evidence, analysis, and reasoning. This isn't meant as an exhaustive list of critical questions to ask in order to fully analyze a source. Moreover, when discussing a source in your assignments, you don't need to answer all of these questions. Instead, use them as prompts for when you're trying to figure out why a source has convinced you or why it hasn't. You can also use it to assess your own academic writing and identify particular aspects of it that you think need improving. Scope refers to what the source sets out to address, and the extent to which it stays within this area. Purpose covers what the author aimed to research or prove. It is related to scope insofar as both should be clearly stated at the beginning of a source in order to manage the reader's expectations. If neither are clear, then the reader is more likely to miss or misinterpret the source's message. Evidence prompts you to consider whether the source provides enough of the right kind of evidence to support its claims, or adequately test its hypothesis or fulfill its aims. This will involve examining the methodology as well. Analysis covers how the evidence was interpreted. Was the interpretive framework appropriate? Was the evidence properly interpreted? Does the evidence support the conclusions? How does the author interpret the work of others? This last question is important. Academics are often guilty of willfully misinterpreting each other. And finally, reasoning, perhaps the most complex area here, which covers the various logical maneuvers through which the author links ideas, evidence, and the claims of others. This is a messy process that often relies on inference, working assumptions, and fallacies, which are generally frowned upon, but which are often necessary as a shortcut that keeps you from wandering outside your scope and going over your word count. Examining the reasoning that underpins the argumentation of a source helps you better understand how it reached its claims. Now that we know what each acronym stands for, let's consider when we should use them. CRAP is for finding reliable sources that will be relevant to your assignments. BEAM is for working out how to use the sources you find in your assignments. And SPEAR gives you an idea of what to analyze and evaluate in a source in order to work out how well you think it supports its claims, and by extension, how convincing you find it. As you work on your assignments, you may find yourself using all three of these approaches at the same time. Roughly speaking, though, you should start with CRAP to find sources that you can then categorize using BEAM before analyzing them using SPEAR. Remember, though, that they provide you with a starting point and that you should build on them with your own ideas of how to find, use, and analyze sources in your field.